So let's start with Jordan Love, the Green Bay Packers, and the hot streak that they are on right now offensively. Jordan Love, fourth in EPA per dropback over his past 4 games. And also, the Packers are fifth in passing success rate over that span. Why that's important is that early in the season, his EPA per dropback numbers were very high, but it was because they were buoyed by big plays. Just think back to those early games when they're hitting all those shots against the Falcons. They had a lot of big plays against the Bears, but down to down, they were struggling. They were down below the middle of the pack in success rate. So it wasn't as if they were efficient. It was that they were hitting a lot of big plays. Now they've settled into a version of this offense where the efficiency is there and the explosive plays are there. And that's really encouraging. So I wanted to dig into what we've seen from Jordan Love here over the past month or so and what that might mean moving forward. So when you're watching Love right now, what is standing out to you about what he's doing well within this Packers offense?
Well, I think he's gaining more confidence. And I tweeted this out the other day and I did a breakdown on him. And I was just so impressed because, the first 2 or 3 games of the year we watched and it was like they were rolling. And then there was like a 6-game lull, 5-game lull. And so I didn't really pay attention to him. And it's sort of the recency bias. And I probably should because it's my job and whatever. But they just weren't
You can't
really
do it with all 32 teams. Guys are gonna slip through the cracks for 3-4 week stretches. There's just no way to keep up with it all.
Exactly. And that's the thing that just wasn't fun to watch. If I'm being honest, because it was just they weren't really hitting it. They have a bunch of rookies, bunch of tight ends, runners that are like rookies. And so I put on the last 2 tapes of him and I've just been completely impressed. And there's a couple reasons why. He's making throws when they're not there. So he's fitting balls into tight windows, which maybe he didn't try during the middle of the year for whatever reason, didn't want to turn the ball over, didn't want to do this. And I mean, even take, for example, the first play of the game of the Detroit Lions Thanksgiving game. I mean, it is bomb. Like it's a bomb, the first play of the game. And they came up and said, we're going to play man. He's like, no, we're not. And the free safety's actually in pretty good position. It's a corner post by Watson. And honestly, Watson easily walks in, but Jordan 2 hitches it and underthrows it, but he's still able to get up there and make the play. So like he's doing that more often. And also I want to say a little bit, what I've noticed is his arm angle. His arm angle is like insane's not even the right word. I didn't know he had that kind of arm talent. We talk about arm talent and it's not arm strength. It's not how hard you can throw the football. What I view arm talent and what evaluators of NFL quarterbacks view arm talent is it's how you change your arm angle depending on where you are at in the pocket or if you're on the run. And I mean, like 20% of the pockets in that NFL quarterbacks throw from are a clean pocket. So you're saying 80% of the time, we did a huge study on this in New Orleans. 80% of the time, the quarterback's moving, you have a guy in your face, somebody at your legs, and time again, on Thursday and Thanksgiving, he had guys in his face. I mean, the offensive line played okay. I didn't think this was their best game.
I thought they did a really good job of giving him extra bodies and protection. I thought they were very smart with the way they protected, but one-on-one situations, they still have some issues, concerns. It's not the best group.
And I will say the best thing, what you just said, it was they got 4 hands on Aiden Hutchinson, who is the killer in that like rush team, right? Like in that front. And so I was really impressed with that. But just the arm angle, it's interesting because there's a couple times in the game where I'm thinking he has nowhere to throw the football and he probably just needs to throw it away, or it doesn't seem like he's taking a whole bunch of sacks because he's making the right decisions. He's throwing the ball away. But a couple of these like deep curls versus man, which is the absolute worst thing you could possibly have versus man coverage. You're hoping these, like we call them missile routes, like 18 back down to 16. You're hoping for zone cover 2, look the mic off, throw it in. He had a couple of these versus man, and he was able to move in the pocket, sidearm throw, and throw away from the defender. And just like that, those unique throws, which you're seeing time and time again. And that's sort of what I said and what I thought was when I watched Jordan Love the last 2 weeks, in my opinion, he's taken that next step in the starting quarterback level. And that is, hey, not only you're not going to lose the game, you're not a game manager, but now you can put the Packers on your back and you can win games with your arms. I don't know if I would have said that 4 or 5 weeks ago, but he's trending upward. Can he continue to do it? I think their play calling has gotten even better down the stretch because honestly, LaFleur has noticed this progression of Jordan Love. These rookie receivers are starting to come on. So it's a fun thing to watch for sure.
Creativity is the word I would come back to in terms
Yeah.
of the type of throws, right? It's not about arm strength, it's about creativity as a thrower. And my biggest question with quarterbacks is always when the answer isn't there for you within a given play, when nobody's open, how do you rise above the structure of the offense?
Yeah.
There are so many ways to do it. Some guys do it with mobility, some guys do it with scrambling. Other guys, the arm angles and what you can create from muddy pockets, that's how you add to the offense. That's how you rise above what's available. Matthew Stafford being the best example, right? Matthew Stafford takes more than what's there on a given play, in
Yeah.
part because of how creative he is as a thrower. And that is what we're seeing in flashes, at least, from Jordan Love. And it's not just trick shots for trick shots' sake.
Yeah,
It's him
no.
being able to get the ball off in these muddy pockets or when he's backpedaling in the pocket and getting more meat off the bone than a lot of other quarterbacks would.
Yeah.
And that is extremely encouraging when you're trying to find one of the handful of guys in the NFL who can consistently lift you above what a given play is going to give you.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Jordan's doing is, and you hit it right on. You're a little bit better at voicing what what I'm thinking, but the creativity and also just being able, like you said, like LaFleur can't call a perfect game. Any offensive coordinator, they're not going to call a perfect game. But can you, like you said, rise above the certain play call? Because, like, I'll take, for example, I'm going back to those those little dig curl routes. Okay, he's calling that on 2nd and long, and Detroit came out in man-to-man coverage. Jordan does not have an out for whatever on that play. They're like, hey, we're just going to let it roll versus man. That play sucks versus man, dude. Like, it is not good.
And they played a ton of man in that game.
And they
more
played a
than they
ton
have
of
all
man.
season.
Way more man. And you look, and I'm just imagining LaFleur on the sideline. He's thinking, he's like, damn. You know, he's like, man, I called this play. Let's see what's going to happen. Because even your checkdowns are flats versus man-to-man. So he's like, hey, Jordan knows that you just got to make an all-star throw. And that's exactly what he does. And not only that, your receivers have to win. And what I saw versus that man coverage, which I haven't seen all year long, is those receivers winning versus man-to-man. And they got some speed there. That's the thing. Like, this is like one of the youngest teams in the National Football League. So they're building this thing the right way. I think they were 2-4 at one point. They're 5-6 right now, and right in the thick of the NFC playoff battle.
I was talking to somebody there yesterday and just talking about some of the progression we've seen from some of the young guys. And they said the most encouraging part is that we've seen them grow together. And that's what you're seeing. There are still fuck ups. You know, there was a play, I think, on the first drive where you have two guys running the same route. The tight end and the receiver are both running a little wrap route.
Wild.
He has nowhere to go with it. And it's like, all right, that stuff is still going to happen. Tucker Kraft is still just getting kind of worked into the offense now that Luke Musgrave is hurt. All of these guys are still very, very early in their careers. But you're starting to see the flashes of what those guys can be. Christian Watson finally showing up and showing you what type of force he can be within the offense. Jaden Reed giving them consistent juice in what they're doing. Even guys like Dontavian Wicks, who has been good for them in stretches. Malik Heath, who's another undrafted rookie. He had some moments against the Lions.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be slow to get to the point that they wanted to get to. And that was beyond the quarterback being in his first year as a starter. It's all those other guys getting on the right page. Also, as you're dealing with injuries and shuffling along the offensive line. So the fact that it's all starting to come together with everyone at the same time, they're walking in lockstep toward where they want to be. I think that is the most encouraging part of watching this offense overall.
Is number 11 Reed?
Yes, he's a rookie as well.
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. Like, when you don't watch a guy like back to back weeks, you don't really know their weapons. In the last 2 weeks, the Chargers and this Detroit Lions game, the person other than Christian Watson that's flashed to me is Reed, number 11. Like, I'm watching him, I'm like, dude, this guy's got some juice. Like, he's got some real juice behind him. And so it's been cool to see other people stepping up, because, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, when I was watching, I had no idea who people were other than Christian Watson. And that's the thing, like, what you like to see is everyone growing together, and you're doing it in a way that everyone's really well coached. You can tell everyone cares. It's the classic Green Bay offensive guys, really no like stud number one receiver, but everyone sort of helping, right? Everyone helping out. And man, if they can continue to grow, especially because they're like one of the youngest teams in the NFL, LaFleur's got something to them. And that's the other thing that you look at the stats, okay? Because I'm a big stats guy. through the first 11 games of Aaron Rodgers that he started and Jordan Love that he started, they're identical. 21 total touchdowns, 2,699 total yards. I mean, if you like people that are like just crapping on Jordan Love through the first like 4 or 5 games, like give this guy, that's what we don't do. It's so recency biased in this like circle of covering NFL. They don't let guys grow.
Yeah.
Okay. And they without just getting onto him, because everyone say, what have you done for, okay, but like, dude, look at him. Look what he's put through. And I'm not saying that, hey, I think, but I don't know, like Green Bay has found their another 15-year starter, which is absolutely like that could be wild. You go from like Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Now there's a lot to go from it. He still has to continue to get better, but he's on the right track.
The thing about Jaden Reed that I love is that he has a skill set that they just haven't been missing in this offense for so long.
Juice,
they've tried to find it, whether it was Amari Rodgers or some other guys where just get the ball in their hands and let them go to work. And that's because they seek out a specific type of receiver typically. They go for these bigger guys. They have size thresholds that they really don't compromise on ever. Yeah. But because he had the return ability in college, I think that made them a little bit more open to a guy with his size and his physical profile. And it's added a really cool layer to the offense. So talking about Jordan Love specifically, it's not all great, right? This is still a guy who's in his first season. There's some sloppiness. There's some things to clean up. Where do you think he still needs to improve after you go back and you watch the last couple of games?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not glaring holes, but there are 2 things in particular that I thought he just didn't do a great job of. And that is on the deeper throws down the field. I've seen at least 3 or 4 times in the Chargers and the Lions game, just the last 2 games, that he's underthrown balls. And he's underthrown these balls because his footwork is not great. And I'm saying on those plays, he's late on throwing. He might be a little bit late seeing it and processing. Oh, I can let this go. Like if he lets the big post on the first play of the game go on the first hitch rather than the second hitch, knowing that like Watson is a speed burner, it's an easy touchdown. And I think they ended up scoring on that play or on that drive. And so it was fine. It was fine.
Well,
but like
the play they scored on was that ball he fit in through a keyhole to Jaden Reed.
Well, and then Christian Watson ran the absolute wrong route. It's hilarious. If you actually go back and watch it, I'm like, what are they doing? Because he alerts it. And they're trying to run triple slant, which is a Green Bay like staple. And you're on triple slant, you're trying to hit the number 2 guy. And Christian Watson's supposed to have what we call a lookie. The lookie's supposed to run through the linebacker, which is playing whole coverage as a linebacker. And man, you're just reading the quarterback's eyes and going to it. Well, Christian Watson thinks that they're running that little bubble screen. Okay. So you got 2 guys on the outside running slants. Christian Watson's going to get the ball. And like halfway through the route, you can see he's like, oh crap. And then like, actually, I have no clue. Like he messed up not only the defender on him, but the whole linebacker. And somehow that ball got through there. But you can watch after, like Christian knows he messes up. He just puts his hands on his head. He's like, oh my gosh, like, what are we doing? It was hilarious. But honestly, the second thing too, if you go back and watch the second play of the game, they're running a flat and a slant on one side, okay? And they're running a hank route, which is like a hook route over the ball at 5 yards, a curl route at 12 yards outside, and a flat route. So you want to work the hank side versus this shell coverage. Shell coverage is too high. Look, any quarters too high over there. And you want to work this, what we call dragon, slant flat versus any single high zone or man, okay? Well, he throws the slant second play of the game and gets his guy crushed, and it's quarters. He works the wrong side. And you look over here, the curl's standing wide open. Honestly, if he breaks the tackle, he might score. Like stuff like that's going to come up, like working the wrong side, because that's the type of offense that they are. They're hey, this is the side versus cover 2 and cover 4. This is the side versus single high zone and man. And the quarterback's got to be right. And it wasn't like it was being disguised. You see a couple of that. You see a couple of those plays like wrong reads, like wrong reads within the game. And I go back to even the Chargers game. Okay. He's taken a huge high post versus quarters, and he's taken this deep curl versus cover 2. Well, he ends up throwing the deep post, underthrows it, and this missile versus cover 2, which is exactly what you want, is standing wide open. So there's a couple of these things on film that you could say, hey, he's not perfect. He needs to continue to get better. And it's not like it's 10 plays a game, but it's like 4 to 5 plays a game. And over the season, those plays can add up.
Is that okay in your mind for somebody that's on start 12? Do you
Yeah.
feel like he's behind or ahead of where he should be?
I think he's actually above, in front of where he should be, and that's just the maturation process of being a quarterback. Like you're only going to get people don't understand. Like you're only going to get experience through playing. It sounds easy to say, but you're not going to get experience from practice or reps in preseason. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not the real thing. And he's just stacking weeks, man. That's just what they want him to do. They just want him to stack weeks on top of each other. Don't try not to make the same mistake twice because there's going to be mistakes made. And quite honestly, that ball was completed where he threw that slant versus quarters, and only people that know like where he should have went, which is honestly the offensive staff and guys that have played the game. Like he made the wrong read, but he completed it. Okay, 2nd and 2, we're good.
I like
But
that it was an aggressive choice. Like him
yeah,
ripping that ball. I think if you're
yeah,
going to make the wrong decision, make it that way.
I
I
agree.
because he did get his guy lit up, and I was thinking
Oh
the
God,
exact same thing. It's like
yep,
there's nothing preventing that quarter safety from just driving on that ball. But
yeah,
it's a completion. It's an accurate throw. One of my issues watching him is that for all the creativity and all the fun off platform stuff, it can get a little sloppy at times, and he can spray some balls. And I think maybe that
yeah.
is something you just have to live with if this is going to be his play style. But every once in a while, this was true at the beginning of the season, and I think it still holds true even over these couple games. There are a couple where it's like, whoops, where that thing just
Yeah.
gets away from him a little bit. And
Yeah.
again, that evens out over time, and the ratio of cool, effective, impactful off-platform
Yeah.
throws is so much higher than that spray every once in a while. Maybe it's just something that you kind of take with the bad or take with the
Well,
good.
you do, and it's and every quarterback, right, is going to have those throws. You just want to see this guy get more consistent. That's the biggest thing. And quite honestly, I've seen a huge jump the last 2 games in him, just his confidence level too. Because isn't it wild? Like I just go back and think about the history of the Green Bay Packers, and you look at their last 3 quarterbacks, right? Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and all 3 of those guys have these crazy off-platform throws. And I'm like, okay, it's just you just learn it. Like Rodgers learned it from Favre, and Love learned it from Rodgers, and now they're perfecting as they go. Like I think that is so cool to just know, like, hey, the Green Bay Packers quarterbacks for the last 3 decades or whatever it is, they're like they just are known for off-platform throws, and it's cool to see.
It's November 29th. They don't have to make any definitive decisions right now, but we're going to try to make one for them anyway here. You're Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur. How are you approaching the Jordan Love situation this offseason? If you had to make the decision right now, which you don't, but we're going to do it anyway.
Oh, you're re-upping them as soon as this season ends. You're re-upping them, and you're not. I mean, he's going to hit 40 million, I would think, but like he's not going to be a $50 million guy now. But I think it's going to be a team-friendly contract. But I think for sure, like you don't want your quarterback being a lame duck, especially with how he's played down the stretch. I think he's shown enough that if you put guys around him, if they continue to grow, like, like he's shown enough to me to be in that contract situation. Because quite honestly, he's on a really friendly deal right now, man. Like, let's just be completely honest. Like, as far as starting quarterbacks go, and so look, it's a $7.5 million cap hit, which is nothing. But I guarantee you, I don't want to guarantee it. I would imagine that they would absolutely do a 3 to 4 year deal, 2 year guarantee, and the APY is somewhere in the 40s,
The Daniel Jones
maybe high
contract.
30s. Yeah, and quite honestly, he's better than Daniel Jones. He to me looks like a guy, and quite honestly, it's not really fair on Daniel Jones. I don't think the offense around him has been great, but I do think what the Packers love is continuity. They don't want all these changes, and quite honestly, with the state of the union right now in quarterbacking, I just don't know if there's 18 to 20 guys better than him in the world. And that says a lot. That says a lot. So if you have your guy, even if he's not the guy that you hope in some like Patrick Mahomes, he can still win you games. And he's doing everything that he was supposed to do, in my opinion, in this season to earn another shot and to earn another contract.
I'll be curious to see what they do in the draft. If he ends
Yeah.
up being the guy and that they move forward with him, Bakhtiari is obviously on that monster contract. His future is very murky. It's a
Jeez.
really good tackle draft. And where they end up picking in the first round, could they find a tackle at that spot? You've got all those young weapons. So if you've
Yeah.
got cost controlled weapons, a cost controlled left tackle potentially, if you draft one in the first round and you go cheap there, it's an interesting build. of your
Yeah.
roster. And they've got some
Yeah.
decisions to make on defense. But again, I think that the overall trajectory of the youth movement that they've had on offense, they made an interesting set of bets, not doing anything in the veteran market at receiver.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because I think by doing that, you don't cut off pathways to opportunities and growth for your young guys. It's
Yeah.
always nice to have one guy in the room where you can say, like, this is how you should do it. But I think just kind of rolling the ball out and saying, we're going to sink or swim with these 4 or 5 dudes in their first or second season, I do think there are benefits to that. And I think they're realizing some of those benefits.
I do think, and it's so funny you said that about veteran receivers. I do think if they end up having and wanting Jordan Love to be the future there, I do think that a true one or number 2 receiver it help so much, so much within that room, but also Jordan as well. Like if Jordan's your guy, you want to build around him, and you need a guy at receiver opposite a Christian Watson, opposite all these other guys. I know they're trying to make these guys work, and that's great. But it just, even adding a true number 2 guy for $10 million for a year or two in the veteran free agent market that fits your team, that fits your offense, I think would be awesome.
Next year's Jacoby Myers, a guy in that sort of mold. I think that's interesting.